Hey fellas, have you ever reached into your pocket, pulled out some change, and thought, this ain't worth much? Well, think again. Because that old 1998 D Washington quarter you tossed in your junk drawer could actually be worth a jaw-dropping $2 million. Yeah, you heard me right. $2 million. That's not a typo. We're talking about a coin that looks like any quarter, but could change your life in an instant. So before you dump your change jar at the Coinstar, you might want to take a closer look. Today we're diving deep into the world of the 1998 D Washington quarter. I'm gonna break down why it's so valuable, what to look for, and how you might just be sitting on a retirement plan disguised as loose change. So grab yourself a cold drink, kick back in that recliner, and let's talk quarters, cash, and the crazy stories behind them. Now let me tell you something. About 5 years ago, I was cleaning out my granddad's old tackle box. Inside, he had all sorts of stuff: hooks, lures, a half-eaten pack of gum from the 70s, and tucked away in a small plastic bag, quarters. Now I'm thinking, hey, maybe I'll toss these in the car for tolls. But something told me to take a closer look. And boom, one of them was a 1998 D Washington quarter. I looked it up and saw that some of these babies have been auctioned for hundreds of thousands, up to $2 million if you've got the right one. Alright, let's get into the details. The 1998 D Washington quarter was minted in Denver, hence the D mint mark. Now, millions of these were produced, so not all of them are worth a fortune. But there's a rare variety, and that's what we're after. This quarter features George Washington on the obverse, the front of the coin. Same classic profile. On the reverse, it's got that familiar eagle perched on a bundle of arrows. Nothing out of the ordinary at first glance, but it's the tiny differences that make a huge difference in value. So what makes one of these quarters worth more than a Ferrari? It comes down to errors and condition. Let's start with errors. Some of these 1998 D quarters were struck using proof dies or experimental planchets, coin blanks that weren't supposed to be used for circulating quarters. That means sharper details, unusual finishes, or wrong metal compositions. That's like printing a $100 bill on the wrong kind of paper. It's a mistake, but collectors go crazy for it. One of the most valuable errors is the transitional error. That's when the mint switches from one type of coin, metal or die, to another, and some coins slip through with the wrong combo. Think of it as the mint's version of a factory mix-up. You've got something that technically shouldn't exist, but it does. Combine that with a perfect or near-perfect grade, like a mint state 68 or higher, and bam, you've got a coin that can fetch $2 million at auction. Now you're probably wondering, how do I know if my 1998 D quarter is worth anything? Good question. Here's what you look for: check the mint mark. If there's a small D under the date, you're on the right track. Examine the surface. Is it shiny like a proof coin? Is there unusual detail in the eagle feathers or Washington's hair? Look for errors. Off-center strikes, double dies, or odd metal color can all mean added value. Consider getting it graded. Send it to a reputable grading service like PCGS or NGC. If it comes back with a high grade, you're looking at serious money. To give you some real-world numbers, a 1998 D quarter with an experimental planchet error once sold for over $800,000. That was a few years ago. Today, with inflation and the booming collectibles market, the estimated value has climbed to $2 million if you've got a flawless or near-flawless example. Another one sold for $125,000, and it wasn't even in perfect condition. So you don't need to have a museum-quality coin. Even pretty good could mean pretty rich. Start at home. Go through that change jar in your kitchen, your glove box, your old jeans. Ask your relatives. Grandma's cookie jar might be holding gold in disguise. Check flea markets, yard sales, and estate auctions. A lot of folks don't know what they've got: coin roll hunting. Go to the bank, ask for rolls of quarters, and just start looking. It's cheap, it's fun, and you never know what you'll find. I knew a guy who found a rare error coin while waiting at the laundromat. True story. Alright, let's say you hit the jackpot. You've got a 1998 D quarter with an error. it's graded high, and it looks promising. What now? Third, auction it. Heritage Auctions and Stack's Bowers are great places to start. These guys know how to get your coin in front of serious collectors, and finally, be patient. The right buyer could make the difference between a $10,000 sale and a $2 million payday. Look, the odds are slim, but they're not zero. People find valuable coins every single year. And if you're not looking, you're missing out. That 25-cent piece in your ashtray could be the start of something big. Collecting coins isn't just about making money either, it's about history, mystery, and the thrill of discovery. You never know when a simple quarter might turn out to be a rare gem. Go check your change. Dig through those old coin jars. Ask your buddies. Check with your parents or grandparents. You might just be one of the lucky few holding onto a fortune, and if you enjoyed this video, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit that bell so you never miss out on another valuable coin tip. I've got more coming your way, from $1,000,000 nickels to pennies that'll blow your mind. Hey there, fellas. Let me ask you something. When was the last time you actually looked closely at the change in your pocket? No, seriously. You ever pull out a quarter, glance at it, and toss it into the coin jar without a second thought, because sitting right now in a junk drawer, glove box, or your old coffee can full of coins, could be a 1986 Washington quarter that's worth a jaw-dropping $2.1 million. Yeah, you heard me right. $2.1 million bucks. That's not a typo. That's the kind of money that could pay off your mortgage, buy a classic car, and still leave enough left over to finally take that fishing trip to Alaska you've been dreaming about since 1984. So grab a drink, sit back, and let's dig into how an ordinary-looking quarter from 1986 turned into a life-changing treasure. Now before we get into the nuts and bolts of this coin's insane value, let me tell you a quick story. A few years ago, I was at a yard sale, just browsing old tools and dusty vinyl records when I saw a guy flipping through a coin collection on one of the tables. I struck up a conversation with him, and he told me he once found a rare quarter, just lying under the seat of his truck. Thought it was junk at first. Turns out, it was worth tens of thousands. I laughed it off at the time. But you better believe when I got home, I started digging through every drawer and cup holder in the house, and that's how I started this crazy journey of coin collecting. It all started with a simple, forgotten quarter, and that brings us back to our main star today, the 1986 Washington quarter. This coin was minted in Philadelphia, hence the P mint mark, and it's part of the regular Washington quarter series that started back in 1932. Now 1986 wasn't a year known for rare coins. In fact, millions of these quarters were made, over 550 million to be exact. Here's the thing. It's not just about the year. It's about the details, those tiny little quirks, errors, and unique features that set one coin apart from the rest. The most valuable 1986 Washington quarter wasn't just any old coin, it had a rare minting error and it was in incredible condition. We're talking mint state, nearly perfect, never touched by greasy hands or dropped into a soda machine. This specific 1986 had what's known as a double die obverse error. That means during the minting process, the die that stamped the front of the coin, that's George Washington's face, shifted ever so slightly, just enough to create a doubling effect on the letters and numbers. Collectors go absolutely crazy for that kind of error. It's rare, it's fascinating, and it makes the coin one of a kind, but it doesn't stop there. This coin was also graded MS-67 by a top-tier grading service. That's basically saying it's in museum-quality condition, sharp, crisp details, no scratches, no wear, and when you combine that kind of error with pristine condition, boom. You've got a coin worth millions. Graded MS-67 with the double die obverse error, was sold through a private auction. A serious collector, someone with deep pockets and a passion for rare U.S. coins, paid over $2 million to add it to their collection. The value of rare coins like this one continues to rise. Why? Because more collectors enter the market every year, and supply doesn't go up. These coins don't grow on trees. The rarer they are, the higher they go in value. That 1986 quarter was a perfect storm of rarity, condition, and collector demand. Now that doesn't mean every 1986 quarter is worth that kind of cash. But yours just might be worth more than you think. So let's talk about what you should be looking for if you've got a pile of old quarters lying around. First, flip them over and check the date. If you see 1986 and the letter P under Washington's ponytail, you've got a Philadelphia Mint coin. Next, get yourself a magnifying glass or use your phone camera with a zoom. You're looking for doubling, especially on the words Liberty, Indiana, God We Trust, and the numbers and the date. If you see what looks like shadows or ghosting on the letters or numbers, that could be a double die. Also, check the condition. The closer it looks to brand new, the better. Look for sharp edges, clear details, and no major dings or scratches, and if it looks promising, don't just throw it back in the drawer. Take it to a coin shop, or better yet, send it to a professional grading service. If it comes back with a high grade and a rare error, you might be looking at a six-figure payday, or more. You'll want to get it graded. That means sending it to a company like PCGS or NGC. These are legit, well-known grading services. They'll examine your coin and give it a grade between 1 and 70. Grading does cost money, usually around $30 to $100 depending on the coin, but if your quarter is worth even a few $100, it's more than worth it. Once graded, you can list it on platforms like eBay, heritage auctions, or even attend a local coin show and talk to dealers face to face. Take clear, high-quality photos of your coin. Good pictures can make a huge difference when it comes to getting top dollar. Now, besides the ultra-rare $2.1 million coin, there are other 1986 P quarters that can fetch serious money. For example, coins graded MS-66 or MS-67 without errors can still go for hundreds or even thousands of dollars, especially if they have strong luster and clean surfaces. And some have minor errors like off-center strikes, die cracks, or planchet issues that still bring in collectors. So if you've got a few 1986 quarters lying around, don't assume they're junk. Take a closer look, you might be holding a hidden gem. We've talked about the 1986 P Washington quarter, how a single coin sold for $2.1 million thanks to a rare error and pristine condition, and what you need to look for if you want to find one yourself. Remember, it's not just about the date, it's about the details. Errors, condition, and rarity are what drive the value. So tonight, instead of flipping on the TV or scrolling through your phone, go check that old coin jar in your closet. Dig through the drawer full of batteries and loose screws. Check the bottom of your car's cup holder. You never know. Your next vacation, your new truck, maybe even your early retirement could be hiding in the form of a 25-cent piece from 1986. If you found this video helpful, go ahead and hit that like button, subscribe if you haven't already, and drop a comment telling me what cool coins you found, or hope to find. Where your pocket change might just change your life. Now, before you toss that old quarter into a vending machine, stop and listen up. Because today, we're talking about one of the most surprising and valuable coins floating around out there, the 1965 no-mint Mark Washington $quarter. Believe it or not, there's one of these bad boys out there that has sold for a jaw-dropping $2.2 million. Yeah, that's not a typo. $2.2 million for a coin you might have used to buy a soda back in the day. So grab a cup of coffee, kick back in your recliner, and let's take a deep dive into how one quarter could be your retirement plan. Let me tell you a quick story. A buddy of mine, Chuck, retired Navy guy, was cleaning out his garage, old toolboxes, fishing gear, some coin jars, the usual stuff we all stack up over the years. He finds this dusty jar full of quarters. Now Chuck ain't no coin guy, but he's heard me go on and on about rare coins, so he decides to look a little closer. And wouldn't you know it, right there near the bottom, he finds a 1965 quarter that just felt different. Long story short, he brings it to a local coin dealer just to see. And boom, the guy's eyes light up like a kid on Christmas. Now Chuck didn't hit the $2.2 million jackpot, but he walked away with a few $1,000 richer for a coin he almost gave to the grandkids for gumballs. That right there lit a fire under me, and today I want to make sure it lights one under you too. Alright, let's rewind to 1965. Back then, the United States Mint was making a big change. You see, quarters made before 1965 were 90% silver. That's real metal value, not just face value. But because silver prices were going through the roof, folks were hoarding those coins like gold.so in 1965, the mint made the switch. No more silver. The new quarters were copper-nickel clad. Cheaper to produce, and meant to be used, not hoarded. But here's where it gets juicy. During that transition, a few 1965 quarters were accidentally struck on leftover 90% silver planchets from 1964. They weren't supposed to exist, but they do. And they're worth a fortune. None of these quarters have a mint mark. Back then, the mint wasn't putting mint marks on coins from 1965 to 1967. So you've got to go by weight, sound, and expert eye. Okay, let's get into the meat and potatoes. How do you know if you've got the $1 million baby in your coin jar? First, the weight. A regular 1965 quarter weighs about 5.67 grams. But the silver ones? They weigh 6.25 grams. It might not seem like a big difference, but for collectors and dealers, it's everything. You'll need a precise digital scale, nothing fancy, just something that reads to the hundredth of a gram. Second, the sound test. Drop a silver quarter on a hard surface, like a table or countertop. You'll hear a sharp, high-pitched ring. A clad quarter? It gives a dull thud. It's kind of like the difference between a tuning fork and a rock. Third, the edge. Take a good look at the edge of the coin. A regular quarter from 1965 will show a copper-colored stripe. A silver one? Solid silver, baby, no stripe at all. Fourth, professional grading. If you think you've got a winner, don't sit on it. Get it checked out by a professional grading service like PCGS or NGC. They'll authenticate it and let you know if you're sitting on a small fortune. Now here's what separates the $1 million ones. They're not just struck on silver planchets. Some have minting errors, like double strikes or off-center designs. Those rare traits drive the price up astronomically. And when I say rare, I mean maybe 1 in 100 million kind of rare. A few years back, a 1965 silver quarter was auctioned off after intense bidding. Two collectors went head-to-head like a coin version of a heavyweight title fight. When the dust settled, one guy shelled out $2.2 million for that quarter. Why? Because coin collecting isn't just about the coin. It's about history, rarity, condition, and a little something called bragging rights. For a serious collector, owning a one-of-a-kind mistake from the US Mint is like owning the Mona Lisa of quarters. There are reports of other silver 1965 quarters selling for tens of thousands, even hundreds of thousands. But the $1 million ones? Those are the unicorns. Still, that doesn't mean you can't stumble across one. Just ask Chuck, check your change. Sounds obvious, but it works. Quarters circulate for decades. One guy found a valuable silver quarter at a car wash in change for a $5 bill. You never know. Coin jars. Go raid that jar you've been tossing coins into since 1982. Look for quarters dated 1965. Weigh them. Test them. Flip them. Estate sales and flea markets. Older folks often have jars, drawers, and boxes filled with coins they never checked. You might pay $10 for a box that has a $20,000 quarter inside. Ask family. Your dad, uncle, or grandpa might have collected coins or saved silver ones during the coin shortage. Ask if they've got anything from the 60s. Here's why I think the 1965 quarter is more than just a coin. It's a reminder of value hiding in plain sight. It's a symbol of how something so ordinary, something we overlook every day, could turn out to be extraordinary. It's also a piece of history. It marks the end of an era for silver coins, the beginning of a major economic shift, and one of the most interesting blunders in US Mint history. And now, it might just be your ticket to the good life. So fellas, next time you're fishing for quarters in the cup holder of your truck or cleaning out your sock drawer, take an extra minute. That 1965 quarter might just have a little more shine to it than you thought. Don't forget to like this video if you learned something new, share it with your buddies who still carry change, and drop a comment if you've got a 1965 quarter hiding somewhere. I want to hear your stories. Subscribe for more coin finds, value breakdowns, and good old-fashioned treasure hunts from the comfort of your lazy boy. Because around here, we don't just collect coins, we collect history. We turn pocket change into potential treasure. Now before you go tossing that handful of quarters into a vending machine or dropping them into the couch cushions, you might want to hear this, because one of those little coins might just be worth $2.3 million. Yeah, you heard me right. We're talking about the 1991 P. Washington quarter. It's not just a regular OL quarter anymore. It's become a millionaire, and if you're lucky, so could you. Grab yourself a cup of coffee, kick back, and let's dive deep into why this ordinary-looking quarter has collectors going crazy and how you might have one sitting in your change jar right now. Back in 2019, my buddy Joe, he's the kind of guy who saves every coin he gets, was digging through an old peanut butter jar full of quarters. Now Joe's not a collector, not by a long shot. He just hates spending coins. Says they jingle too much in his pockets. Anyway, he's digging around for quarters to feed a parking meter, pulls out one with a 1991 date and a little P mark right under Washington's ponytail. Doesn't think much of it, right? Drops it in the slot and walks away. Fast forward a couple of months, he sees an article online about rare quarters, recognizes that coin, and nearly passes out. Starts pacing around his living room like he just saw Bigfoot. Too late. The quarter was gone, and he's been kicking himself ever since. Never underestimate your spare change. That 25 cents could be your retirement plan. Alright, let's talk turkey. The 1991 P. Washington quarter looks pretty standard at first glance. It was minted in Philadelphia, hence the little P under Washington's head. Over 570 million of them were produced. That's right, 570 million. So how the heck is one of them worth $2.3 million today? There's a tiny, select batch of 1991 P quarters that have errors, like off-center strikes, double dies, or planchet flaws. Then there are those that were struck perfectly, flawless in every detail. We're talking MS 68 or higher. Those coins are like unicorns in the coin world. Rare, beautiful, and worth a fortune. Now combine that with demand. Collectors are willing to shell out big bucks for the best of the best. And that's how a 25-cent coin ends up on the auction block with a $2.3 million price tag. This particular 1991 P quarter was graded MS 68 by PCGS, one of the top coin grading services in the world. It had a satin-like finish, no contact marks, no scratches, razor-sharp strike, and perfect luster. It basically came off the press like a dream and was preserved like a holy relic. At a major coin auction, a bidding war broke out. Guys in suits with paddles, phone bids flying in from Dubai and New York, you name it. When the dust settled, the final bid came in at $2.3 million. For a coin that most folks would have tossed in the laundry basket. Alright, now I know what you're thinking. How do I know if I've got one of these jackpot quarters? Make sure it's got the P. That means it came from the Philadelphia Mint. You'll see it just below the ribbon on Washington's hair. This is a big one. The more flawless the coin, the higher the value. If your quarter looks like it's been run over by a lawnmower, you're out of luck. But if it looks clean, crisp, with no dings or scratches, you might be in business. Look for anything odd. Doubled letters. Slight off-center strikes. Even things like missing design details or a strange metal texture. These quirks can turn a common coin into a collectible. Coins that have that original mint luster, like they just rolled out of the mint press, are the ones you want. If it gleams like a mirror, take a closer look. If you spot anything like that, it's worth getting the coin graded. Services like PCGS or NGC can give you a professional opinion, and potentially make you a millionaire. Let's talk grading real quick. Because this can make or break your coin's value. A 1991 P quarter in circulated condition might fetch you $1 or $2. But one that's certified in MS 67 or higher? That's where the big money lies. Send your best looking coins to a professional grader. They'll inspect every detail under high magnification. If they slap a high grade on it, you've got gold. Well, technically, silver-plated copper, but you get my point, and once that grade is official, you've got proof. That's your golden ticket when it comes time to sell. Turns out, a lot of folks. Wealthy collectors. Museums. Private investors who want to stash their cash in hard assets. Even celebrities have gotten into the rare coin game. These buyers are looking for rarity, condition, and history. And a 1991 P quarter in perfect shape with a story behind it? That's coin collecting gold. While you're at it, don't stop at the 1991 P. There are plenty of quarters out there that can fetch a fortune. Every one of these has the potential to sell for thousands, sometimes more. So there you have it, fellas. That little piece of metal jingling in your pocket could be a jackpot waiting to happen. The 1991 P Washington quarter isn't just another coin, it's a reminder that sometimes, the smallest things can carry the biggest surprises. Here's what I want you to do. Right after this video, dig into your coin jars, search through your old change, even check behind the couch cushions. If you find a 1991 P quarter that looks flawless or has a weird error, get it graded. Who knows, you could be sitting on $2.3 million and not even know it. And if you learned something today, go ahead and smash that like button, subscribe to the channel, and drop a comment below. Tell me if you've got any interesting quarters lying around. I read every single one of them. If you've ever had your hands on a 1988 D Washington quarter, you might want to grab a seat and prepare to be amazed. What if I told you that the humble quarter you might have tossed into a vending machine or used for laundry could actually be worth up to $2.4 million? Yeah, you heard me right. The 1988 D Washington quarter, one of the most common coins in circulation, has turned into a golden ticket for collectors. Now, I know what you're thinking, that's crazy. It's just a quarter. But trust me, the world of coin collecting has its secrets, and today, I'm about to reveal why the 1988 D quarter is so valuable. But first, let me tell you a little story about how I stumbled upon this hidden gem of a coin. A couple of years ago, I was out at a local coin shop, just browsing through some old quarters. You know, the usual weekend hobby. A guy came in, looked to be in his 50s, maybe early 60s, and was holding a small, worn-out envelope. He walks up to the counter, slides it over to the shop owner, and says, "I've got some old quarters here. Think any of them are worth anything?" The shop owner glances through the envelope and immediately pulls out a 1988 D Washington quarter. He studies it for a second, then gives the guy a look like he's seen a ghost. "You've got a goldmine here, my friend," he says, and that's when it hit me, this quarter could be worth millions. And to think, this guy almost let it slip through his fingers like it was just any other coin. Now, that guy didn't walk away with a cool $2.4 million that day, at least not in cash, but he certainly walked out a lot wealthier. So, what exactly makes this seemingly ordinary quarter so extraordinary? Let's dive into it. Let's start with the basics. The 1988 D Washington quarter was minted in Denver, hence the D mint mark. Now, if you're anything like me, when I first started collecting coins, you probably don't think much about the mint marks or where the coin was produced. But these mint marks are what set coins apart, especially when you're hunting for rare varieties like this one. For most of us, the 1988 D quarter seems like a run-of-the-mill coin. It features George Washington's face, as you'd expect, with the word Liberty inscribed above. On the reverse, you'll find the traditional eagle perched on a branch. It's a design that's been around for decades, but for some reason, this particular year and mint mark combination holds something extra special. The key is in its rarity and the specific characteristics of certain 1988 D coins that were minted incorrectly. When coins are made in a minting press, they typically go through several steps. However, there were certain quirks and errors in the 1988 D production process that resulted in a very small batch of quarters that have unique features. Those features have skyrocketed the value of the coin. The major factor driving the value of the 1988 D Washington quarter is a rare minting error. In fact, only a small handful of these coins, thought to be in the tens, maybe a couple of dozen, were struck with a die that was improperly aligned. This misalignment caused the coin to have some slight, but highly noticeable, design shifts. Now, here's where things get really interesting. This misalignment is the main reason these coins have become so valuable. Because of their imperfections, they didn't pass through the usual grading process. But for collectors, that's exactly what makes them so valuable. Think of it like a rare car with an engine defect. It's that quirk that makes it unique and highly sought after by collectors who are willing to pay big bucks to get their hands on it. Additionally, some of the 1988 D quarters have an incredibly sharp strike, making them stand out in terms of quality, even among other coins that were produced in the same year. For collectors, this means it's not just about the rarity of the coin, but also the condition. A high-quality, mint-state 1988 D Washington quarter with the right errors can fetch more than $2.4 million in the right market conditions. Now that we know the 1988 D Washington quarter is a potential goldmine, how do you spot the one in your collection that's worth this kind of cash? Great question. First, look at the date and the mint mark. The 1988 D is the one that could potentially have the misaligned die errors, so you're looking for coins minted in Denver during that year. But, not every 1988 D quarter is going to be worth millions. Only those with the right error are worth that kind of money, so let's go over what to look for. The coin will have a slightly off-center design. If you notice the edge of the coin is visibly thinner or thicker in certain spots, that's a sign of a die misalignment. The image of Washington's face or the eagle on the reverse will be shifted or not completely centered. This is another factor that collectors look for. If the coin's design is very crisp and well-defined, especially on the details of Washington's face, it's a sign of a higher quality strike, which can increase the value. A well-preserved coin with minimal wear and tear will always be more valuable. If the coin is in near mint or mint condition, you're looking at a higher price tag. The best way to assess the value of your coin is to take it to a reputable coin dealer or get it graded by a professional service like the Numismatic Guarantee Corporation, NGC, or Professional Coin Grading Service, PCGS. They'll give you an accurate grade and tell you exactly how much it's worth in today's market. So, who's buying these coins, and why are they so valuable? Well, the market for rare coins is booming, and the 1988 D quarter is at the center of that. In recent years, collectors and investors have been looking for unique and rare coins that are still relatively under the radar, and the 1988 D quarter fits that profile perfectly. This particular quarter has been sold at auctions and coin shows for upwards of $2.4 million, with some coins in pristine condition fetching even higher prices. It's important to note that the value of these coins can fluctuate depending on demand, so if you've got one in your collection, it's worth keeping an eye on the market. Who would have thought that the 1988 D Washington quarter, a coin that's probably sitting in your pocket right now, could be worth millions of dollars? If you're lucky enough to own one of these rarities, it could change your life. But even if you don't fret. There are plenty of other valuable coins out there just waiting to be discovered. I hope you've learned something new today. If you've got a 1988 D quarter, it might be time to take a closer look. Who knows? That little quarter could be worth far more than you ever imagined. We talk about everything from rare coins to hidden treasures you might have just lying around at home. Now, if you're a coin collector, or even just someone with an eye for value, you're gonna want to stick around for this one because today, we're diving into something that could literally change your financial future. We're talking about the 1997 D Washington quarter. Yeah, you heard me right. This quarter, which you probably have in your pocket right now, could be worth a staggering $2.5 million. Sounds crazy, right? But trust me, the world of coin collecting is full of these wild stories, and this coin is one of the best examples. But, don't just go digging through your change jar just yet. There's a reason why this particular quarter is so valuable. Alright, before we get into the specifics of how this coin became a millionaire maker, let's take a step back and break down exactly what makes a coin valuable in the first place. We all know that certain coins can be worth more than their face value, but why? Well, it all comes down to a few key factors: rarity, condition, and historical significance. That's where this 1997 D Washington quarter comes in. To understand the value of this quarter, we first need to understand a bit about its history. The 1997 D Washington quarter was minted in Denver, hence the D mint mark, as part of the ongoing Washington quarter series, which began way back in 1932. That's a long history. Now, when you hear the word Washington quarter, you probably think of that standard image of George Washington's profile on the front and an eagle on the back. But what makes the 1997 D version stand out is that this year was one of the final years before the start of the 50-state quarters program in 1999.so. It's got some historical significance in that sense. While it may not be a part of the iconic state quarter series, it still holds a place in the timeline of U.S. coinage. And like any other rare coin, the fact that it's from a specific point in time makes it more desirable to collectors, especially those who specialize in Washington quarters. Now, let's talk about rarity because that's where the magic really happens. There were over 1.5 billion 1997 D Washington quarters minted, so at first glance, you might think, well, there's plenty of these out there. Why would one be worth millions? Not every 1997 D Washington quarter is worth that kind of money. The key to this coin's high market value is a unique variety that's incredibly rare and hard to find. You see, during the minting process, some of these quarters had a small error, or perhaps a unique feature that made them stand out. Now, let me tell you, coin errors are a goldmine for collectors. We're talking about things like double die, missing mint marks, or even struck-through errors where some debris got into the minting process. These little imperfections make a coin incredibly valuable because they can't be reproduced, and they add an element of scarcity to the coin. When it comes to rare coins, condition is king. I'm sure you've heard it before, but it really is true. Coins that are in pristine condition, basically looking like they just rolled off the mint press, are worth a lot more than those that are scratched up or worn down from years of circulation. And trust me, a lot of these 1997 D quarters that are floating around are in poor condition, which drives down their value. If you happen to find a 1997 D quarter that is in mint state 65 or higher, then you could be sitting on a small fortune. In fact, coins in excellent condition like this have been known to fetch prices of $2.5 million or more at auction. That's because high-quality coins with very few imperfections are considered mint grade, and collectors are willing to pay top dollar for them. A coin needs to be in near-perfect condition to be considered mint state. These coins will have no wear on the high points of the design, and they should have sharp, well-defined details. Now, I'm not saying you're going to find a mint state 1997 D in your pocket change, but if you've got a coin collection, or you've been collecting for a while, it's worth pulling out your magnifying glass and taking a closer look at any 1997 D quarters you have. If you find one in excellent shape with little to no signs of wear, that could be the jackpot you've been looking for. Now, I know what you're probably thinking: how the heck do I find one of these rare quarters? Well, let me tell you a little story. A while back, I was just like you, going through my own collection of coins. I wasn't expecting to find anything huge, but you never know, right? So, I'm sifting through a few quarters from the 1990s, and I stumble across a 1997 D. I didn't think much of it at first, but then I remembered this exact quarter had been gaining a lot of buzz in the coin collecting community. So, I took a closer look. I found that the condition of mine wasn't perfect, but it was still pretty good. No crazy errors, nothing that screamed $2.5 million. But, that moment of excitement where you think, could this be it, really got to me. It was a bit of a letdown, but it also reminded me how much patience and attention to detail this hobby requires. It's not just about the big finds, it's about the hunt and the excitement of discovering something unexpected. You can find these gems too, with the right knowledge and a little bit of luck on your side. Alright, guys, I hope by now you're as excited about the 1997 D Washington quarter as I am. If you've got one in your collection, or if you're out there looking for one, keep your eyes peeled. Remember, it's not just about owning any 1997 D. If you find one that's in excellent condition, or if it has one of those rare errors, you could be sitting on a real treasure. Coin collecting isn't just about the money, though. It's about the thrill of the hunt, the history behind each coin, and the satisfaction of owning a piece of our nation's past. But, hey, if you find a $2.5 million quarter along the way, who's complaining, right? Do you have any 1997 D Washington quarters hiding in your collection? Or are you ready to start searching through your spare change? Let me know in the comments below. Don't forget to like and subscribe if you found this video helpful, and as always, keep collecting, keep searching, and keep enjoying the journey.